and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the AN Museum Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Uyi Agumofwebe, reminding our viewers that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. A former national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, has expressed his heartfelt sympathy with the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Professor Narawe Yilwada, on the loss of his mother. Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje made the remarks when he paid a condolence visit to the bereaved residents in Abuja. Ogochukwu Mobuno has details.
It was a day of solemn reflection at the residence of the APC National Chairman Nenitawe Yilwata, a home that recently became enveloped in grief following the passing of his beloved mother, Mama Lydia Toma Yilwada. Leading the delegation of sympathizers was the immediate past APC National Chairman, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, a man whose presence carried both the weight of political leadership and the warmth of friendship. With a heavy yet steady voice, the former chairman offered prayers for the soul of Mama Lydia and described her as a mother whose wisdom would be missed while her legacy remains eternal.
She lived at the time when she is most needed, because of her guidance and advice. But this is the word of God. All of us are waiting for our own time. So we pray to Almighty God to bless her and give her a generous grace.
He also congratulated Dr. Yilwada on his new role as national chairman and wished him a successful tenure.
I have to congratulate you for this new appointment. We are able to It's unfortunate you could have been the governor of Plateau State. You know how we struggled for you to be the governor of Plateau State, but God did not make it so. But God has made it to be you to be the minister and you to be the chairman. So you still have to thank.
Responding with deep emotion, the APC National Chairman, Professor Nenitawe Yilwada, thanked his predecessor and the entire delegation for the outpouring show of love in a difficult moment and expressed gratitude for the show of unity within the party. He also expressed gratitude for the life of a mother who shaped him with values that continue to guide his paths.
Having said that, I will thank you, all of you, for coming and appreciate your presence. May God bless your presence. And for me as a Christian, there is a verse in the Bible that has a reward for anybody who comes to mourn with somebody who has lost a loved one. I want that blessing to follow all of you who are here. And God should reward you and bless you as you return back to your home. Thank you and God bless you.
The solemn visit ended with a prayer, after which the delegation quietly departed, leaving behind words of comfort, solidarity, and a reminder that in moments of grief, true leadership is not just about power, but about passion. Ogochukwu Mobuno reporting for Global TV News.
Thank you, Ogochukwu. President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria must be brought to the forefront of Africa's progress. Tinubu made the declaration while addressing Nigerians in Brazil, pledging to drive development through technology, food security, and sweeping reforms. The president describes the visit as a strategic step to strengthening ties with Brazil and draw lessons from its economic success, urging Nigerians at home and abroad to embrace unity, innovation, and shared responsibility in building a new nation. Office of the National Security Advisor has handed over 12 kidnapped victims rescued from bandit camps in Kaura and Moda, local government area of Zamfara State, to their respective families. Briefing journalists in Abuja, the national coordinator of the National Counter-Terrorism Center, Major General Adamu Laka, says the victims were freed during coordinated security operations carried out in 2 phases earlier in August. Defense correspondent Kikalomo Ukiri now reports.
It was an emotional scene as families embracing loved ones they feared were lost forever. Tears flowed freely as the Office of the National Security Advisor handed over 128 rescued victims of banditry in Kaura, Nomada, Zamfara State. According to the National Counter-Terrorism Center Coordinator, Major General Adamulaka. The rescue came in 2 waves. On August 14, 42 hostages, men, women, and even a toddler were freed. Then, just a day later, another 88 victims gained their freedom. But freedom did not come without scars. Among the second group, a child could not survive the harsh ordeal of captivity. And for another young mother, the trauma triggered a premature birth and newborn now receiving urgent medical care.
Second batch were rescued on the 19th of August, comprising 34 males and 54 females. So unfortunately, among the rescued second batch, we lost one of the children due to illness, I think, and the fatigue he had faced in the kidnappers' camp. And additionally, one of the women that was rescued had a premature birth. The child is presently in an incubator in the medical facility. And when they were rescued, they have been kept under the Office of National Security Advisor for some psychological, medical, and rehabilitation.
The National Security Advisor commended the security agencies, declaring that the 128 souls is not only a victory for the families, but also a statement of national resilience.
A total of 128 persons were rescued from Kauranamoda. This is a remarkable achievement and a testament to our resolve as a nation. Today is not just about their return. It is about reaffirming our collective resolve as a nation to create a more secure environment for every single person living with.
For the victims, freedom marks the end of the nightmare. For Nigeria, it is a reminder that the fight against banditry continues with no room for retreat. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
The managing director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Kayode Okpefa, says he takes full responsibility for Tuesday's derailment of the Abuja-Kaduna train, which occurred along the Kaduna corridor shortly after departure from Abuja. Speaking during an interview with journalists, Okpefa assured Nigerians that the ongoing investigation into the incident would be thorough and transparent, noting that the injuries for the Abuja-Kaduna passengers were serious. He, however, said that though the incident should not have happened, the Nigerian Railway Corporation would ensure that there is no recurrence. Quite reassuring. The Nigerian Air Force has commissioned 30 solar-powered streetlights, an industrial borehole, and a 35,000-litre water storage system in Anikpokbo, Odeda local government area in Ogun State. The project, inaugurated in honor of the Air Vice Marshal Abidemi Timothy Mackay, is part of efforts to strengthen civil-military relations as well as improve rural livelihoods. Here is Kekalomo Okeri's report.
In the quiet community of Anikpokbo, Odeda, nights were once marked by darkness that breed insecurity, and residents walk long distance in search of clean water. But today, hope shines brighter, literally as the Nigerian Air Force steps in with life-changing projects. Representing the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Bala Abubakar, the Chief of Civil Military Relations, Air Vice Marshal Ibikunle Daramola, says the initiative reflects Nigerian Air Force commitment to community development beyond its combat duties.
Comes as a key step in our ongoing quest to enhance civil-military relations, with a view to building bridges of trust, cooperation, and understanding between the Nigerian Air Force and the communities we serve and protect for enhanced national security of Nigeria.
Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun, who was represented by the Commissioner for Environment, Ola Oresonya, described the intervention as a partnership that aligns with the state's grassroots development agenda.
Reflect its meritorious service, patriotic contributions, and enduring bond between Nigerian Air Force and Ogun State. He was in Ogun State These areas of intervention align with our visions of taking deliberate steps to bring government closer to the people, especially
Community leaders and residents expressed gratitude to the Nigerian Air Force, pledging to safeguard the facility for long-term benefit.
So that chieftaincy title is our Air Marshal Balad Abubakar, the chief of air staff of this Nigeria, or this territory called Nigeria, for bestowing on us this ní Yorùbá máa gbé bọ́ọ̀ tó rí ńlá tí kò tí ì sí ní gbogbo agbègbè yìí rí ẹ bá wa pàtẹ́wọ́ fún wọn.
For Anipopo Odeda community, what once seems like a distant dream is now reality. Water within reach and light guiding their night. Beyond the bricks and mortar, the Nigerian Air Force has left behind something more valuable, a renewed sense of hope. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
The People's Democratic Party (PDP) caucus in the House of Representatives has asked President Bola Tinubu to give Nigerians what it calls better treatment, citing rising hardship and insecurity across the country. At a press conference in Abuja, the caucus aligned itself with decisions of the party's National Executive Committee, which recently confirmed Umar Damago as substantive national chairman of the party. Anietie Patrick now reports.
Leader of the caucus, Fred Agbedi, said the process reflected the party's commitment to due process and internal democracy. He, however, raised concerns over what the caucus described as disregard for court rulings in Osun State, particularly on local government administration.
Ask the federal government to release, obey valid court judgments leading to validity or validating the local government elections that were held in Osun State. Osun State is led by a PDP governor, a successful government and governor who has proved that he's in touch with his people and is delivering dividends of democracy to the people of Osun State. This is anti-democratic, and as a party caucus in the House of Reps, who are lawmakers, we insist that the right thing be done, due process be complied with, legal judgments be obeyed, so that Osun State and the people of Osun State and the local governments will enjoy the benefits of the creation and administration of local governments in Osun State.
The lawmakers further decried what they call increasing insecurity and economic hardship nationwide, urging the federal government to prioritize the welfare and safety of citizens. They also called for the prompt payment of indigenous contractors, insisting that many families and businesses are suffering as a result of unpaid government obligations.
There are massive killings going on across the country, and that shows that a government that cannot protect our people is not a government that is fit to continue in office. This government has failed Nigerians. The APC government, for the past 12 years, 10 years that have been in power, has failed Nigerians. And Nigerians have come to know that PDP is the only party that can bring succor to them. Not only killings, there's a lot of hardship in this country. And Nigerians are groaning in their pains daily. People are committing suicide because the government is not paying attention to them.
The caucus assured that it will continue to uphold the administration accountable through robust legislative engagement. The PDP caucus emphasized that Nigerians deserve a government that protects lives, respects court judgment, and eases the current burden of hardship. Anietie Patrick, reporting for Global TV.
You're watching the live broadcast of the AM News. When the rest of the broadcast returns, Tinubu bans raw share export for 6 months, eyes $300 million revenue boosts. Details coming shortly, plus foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please do stay with us. The second part of this news broadcast now returns with business. President Bola Tinubu has approved a 6-month ban on exporting raw shea nuts to curb informal trade, boost local processing, and protect as well as grow Nigeria's shea industry. The ban, which takes immediate effect and subject to review on expiration, is specifically aimed at boosting Nigeria's shea value chain to generate around $300 million annually in the short term. Vice President Kashif Shettima, who announced the president's directive during a multi-stakeholder meeting at the presidential villa, called on the Federal Ministry of Finance and other relevant government agencies to fast-track enforcement. Let's move to the foreign scene now, where the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, is the Republic of Congo for talks with President Felix Tshisekedi. The discussions focused on the worsening refugee crisis in the country, which now hosts millions of displaced people. Correspondent Mokhtar Kassim reports.
In Kinshasa, the United Nations Refugee Chief, Filippo Grandi, was received by President Felix Tshisekedi at the Palais de la Nation. The Democratic Republic of Congo is facing one of the world's most complex displacement challenges. Ongoing conflict in the east has forced nearly 7 million people from their homes, while the country also shelters refugees from neighboring nations. During the meeting, Grandi stressed the urgent need for stronger international support to ease the humanitarian burden. He also highlighted recent repatriation efforts, including the safe return of more than 500 Rwandan refugees last month under the United Nations supervision. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees is calling for coordinated action to ensure both protection and durable solutions for displaced families across the region. For President Tshisekedi, the visit underscores his government's commitment to working with international partners to stabilize the situation and provide hope for those affected by years of instability. Mokhtar Kassim, reporting for Global Television News.
The United States President Donald Trump has warned of an economic war against Russia if it fails to pursue peace with Ukraine. Trump made this strong remark during a White House cabinet meeting. Again, Mokhtar Kassim reports on what this could mean for global diplomacy.
In Washington, President Donald Trump used the cabinet meeting to issue a stark warning to Moscow, hinging the future of peace on economic pressure. Trump said he prefers this path and warned of serious consequences if Russian President Vladimir Putin doesn't agree to a ceasefire. Though he acknowledged Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is not exactly innocent either, he said the goal is to force both leaders into direct negotiations.
I'd like it to stop. I want to get it to stop. And it will not be a world war, but it will be an economic war. And an economic war is going to be bad. And it's going to be bad for Russia, and I don't want that. Now, I have to also see, because not everybody, Zelensky is not exactly innocent either.
Trump's comments come as diplomatic efforts progress, with no breakthrough yet, raising international concern over the escalation of economic penalties. The White House says discussions on additional sanctions are ongoing. Mokhtar Kassim, reporting for Global Television News.
In the meantime, former Indian diplomat Navdeep Suri has expressed shock over the United States' decision to double tariffs on India, calling the move damaging to trust and warning that it risks pushing New Delhi closer to those he described as reliable partners like Russia and China. Navdeep Suri, a retired Indian diplomat, noted that the steep tariff hike places India exporters at a clear disadvantage and questioned the reliability of the United States as a long-term partner, describing recent rhetoric from Washington as volatile.
Certainly a 50% tariff puts Indian exporters and Indian garment manufacturers at a clear disadvantage vis-a-vis countries like Vietnam or Bangladesh, on which their tariff level is much lower. And these are very low margin businesses. So when you have a 30% difference between the tariffs on one country and another, you will quickly see the importers drifting to other sources.
Suri also said India's resilience in past trade standoffs would serve it well again, but cautioned that the erosion of trusts between the two countries may take longer to repair than trade ties themselves.
I think what has been damaged is trust. And that trust will certainly take longer to repair and restore than other aspects of the bilateral relationship. I think some of the statements that we've witnessed coming out of Washington over the last few weeks have again given rise to that sentiment that the United States is an unreliable partner. And that sentiment, I think, is very pervasive at this point of time in India.
United States tariffs of 50% took effect Wednesday on many Indian products, doubling an existing duty as President Donald Trump sought to punish New Delhi for buying Russian oil. Uyi Agumofwegbe reporting for Global TV News. Let's now turn to sports for you. Lagos State says it is set to take center stage in the world of badminton as preparation reaches its peak for the 8th Lagos International Badminton Classics, scheduled to hold from August 27 to 30, 2025 at the Teslim Balogun Stadium in Surulere. The prestigious 4-day championship, with promises to be a showcase of world-class talent, is organized by the Badminton Federation of Nigeria in collaboration with the Badminton World Federation with support from Lagos State Sports Commission. The 2025 Lagos International Badminton Classics will feature over 200 players from 31 countries across Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And back home, no fewer than 6,382 athletes and officials will converge in Asaba, Delta State capital, for the 9th edition of the National Youth Games, scheduled to run from August 29 to September 6. Organized by the National Sports Commission, the Games aim to promote grassroots sports and unearth the next generation of Nigerian champions. The confirmed figure follows the completion of the digital registration management process, with participants drawn from all 36 states of the Federation. Rebel Stars skipper Junior Harrison will play his final match for the reigning Nigerian champions when they face Kun Khalifat in Owerri on Sunday. Onduka, who has been a key figure in the Ikene-based club's rise, is leaving at the end of his contract and is set to join Erbil Sports Club of Iraq. According to club sources, the defender opted to pursue his career abroad rather than renew his deal or move to another Nigeria Premier Football League side. That's quite a decisive step to take now, isn't it? That's the Global AM News for you. Thank you for watching. As always, remember that you can find us on DSTV channel 365 and StarTimes channel 276. Follow, engage, and subscribe across all social media platforms using @Global TV NG, as well as other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Uyi Agumofwegbe saying a big thank you to you for watching, and Global Morning starts shortly. is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Hello and welcome to Global Morning here on Global Television. I'm Uyi Agmofwegwe. As always, we're grateful knowing that you've made the decision to spend the next 2+ hours with us here on the program today. We do not take that for granted in any way. And we're also grateful knowing that you engage with us across platforms on the social media as well. Let's continue that engagement. Today, as always, we'll add value to your information bank, ensuring that the conversations that we put in front of you are not only timely, but they are such that they add to knowledge, as they say in the academia. But in all, the point is issues of interest, national interest, public interest will be the focal point of our conversation today. President Bola Tinubu apparently is still in Brazil, where he has been engaging with not just his Brazilian counterparts, President Lula Inácio da Silva, but across board with even business leaders and those from different spheres of influence. The president has put forward several issues, all of them top to bottom, about how that Nigeria and indeed Africa can advance their interests going forward. One of those issues has been the Security Council architecture, so to speak, saying that Africa deserves at least 2 seats and then other sort of, if you like, elevation. All right, as far as the Security Council of the United Nations is concerned. But the president has not stopped there. He has also said that Africa must be put on the forefront. What does that mean, really, by context? Because whether you like it or not, as of today, there's no country that we know that moves another country from one point to another. It's just a question of countries deciding what they want to do, how they want to live, and what goals they want to achieve. And then you can begin to talk about how you can synergize with other countries within and beyond your continent to do that. The question is, what is hampering the progress or advancement of Africa, quite frankly? Is it a case of Africa inhibiting itself, or can we again, as always, attribute this to some Western influence, making it extremely difficult, perhaps virtually impossible for Africa to move from point A to point B in politics, in governance, in democracy, in economy, and other critical sectors, including health, education, and infrastructure? Well, these are questions we must continue to put in front of ourselves and reflect on, because whether you like it or not, for a country, for a continent where you have at least 54 nations, it is only pertinent to be concerned as to what it has done the last 40, 50 years to elevate its own standards. Because today, there are those who say, well, Nigeria has not quite, frankly, met up with expectations, because we grew up to know that Nigeria has always been referred to as the giant of Africa, but in recent years people say, well, it is more like just rhetorics, nothing more than that, because they say Nigeria has not led on the level expected of her. And then you see attention in some cases turning to places like Egypt, all right, places like Rwanda, and in some cases Kenya, and you're wondering, how did these two East African nations, Kenya and Rwanda in particular, all right, get to that point where they can rival, so to speak, Nigeria when it comes to conversations that center on continental advancement? Well, again, that is an ongoing conversation, because now we see regional blocks across the continent. You have the ECOWAS and several other similar blocks, East Africa, North Africa, Central Africa, and what have you. And then the umbrella architecture, for want of better words, is the African Union, the AU. How have we been able to harness the potential of these multilateral entities to be able to move Africa to where, or at least closer to where it ought to be? Today you still have countries, several countries across Africa where malnutrition is still a big deal. All sort of ailments and diseases, polio, cholera, diarrhea, and what have you. You still have issues around droughts doing savage, so to speak, to many countries. Of course, in Nigeria, for example, one of those issues that make it readily to the front burner is power. As of today, Nigeria can't boast of, steady power across the country. Yes, we have pockets of areas, maybe cities, where you can say, well, they've enjoyed relatively steady power. But the question is, has it been countrywide? The answer is obvious. Why do we have such a situation? Government after government after government since 1999. And then you're wondering, what did the first 8 years of former President Olusegun Obasanjo miss? Some people will argue and say, well, we can forgive that government. After all, we're just transitioning at that time from the days of the military. But what do we also say from 2007? All right? All the way till 2015. Again, this was a time where late former President Yar'Adua was in power. Of course, ill health won't let him, exhaust his time in office, at least his first term of 4 years, which should have run from 2007 to 2011. But again, as we know, former President Goodluck Jonathan took over and then stretched by another 4 years from 2011 to 2015. It was still the same conversation around power. By 2015, when the APC had become an amalgamation of several other parties, it was still on that premises that campaigns were advanced in terms of what would be done, all of the issues around manifesto, electionary promises, and what have you. From 2015, when now deceased former President Muhammadu Buhari got into office, all the way to 2023, another block of 8 years, it was still the same power issue. At the point, our former minister in this country had said, look, a responsible, issue-focused government won't need more than 6 months to fix power issues in this country. But that same gentleman became Minister of Power for what was more than 4 years, and it was the same issue. At the point he concluded that there must be some spiritual elements, all right, dealing with our power sector. And today, it is same old. One day we're blaming the distribution companies, the discos, all 11 of them. The next day, it is the transmission end of it. And then the day that follows that, we move all the blame altogether to generation. But the question is, has blame or bulk passing ever solved any problem in the world? The answer is obvious. Finally, the point is, until a country like Nigeria, and indeed every other country across Africa, is able to deal with the fundamentals, power, health, infrastructure, and then of course good governance anchored on the rule of law, there's just so much we can do, and this conversation will never end. We're taking a quick break now. When we return, we'll put our two conversations on the road for you. But first, before that, it will also be time to do a couple other things. Do stay with us. One of the big issues in the country today is the proposed strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU. Well, I think ASUU strikes have now become, with all due respect, commonplace for no fault of the union. Because at the end of the day, the union goes on strike by way of responding to certain developments, things that are wrong with the tertiary education system in this country. This morning, for example, news is reporting that both university vice chancellors, as well as the union itself, that's ASUU, are now being bothered, especially when they look at the salary of a professor, which they say is 525,000 naira. Now, that's just one of the many strands in this development. They are just saying that government has not prioritized the pay and overall welfare of those who keep our education system, especially at the tertiary level, moving. Of course, we know it's not possible to run a university system anywhere in the world without teachers, or as we call them, lecturers. So when lecturers go on strike, it means the entire system is grounded. Of course, that also happens when non-academic staff unions go on strike. But the point being made here is it will appear, for whatever reason, ASUU is on the forefront of pushing these issues that have to do with the upliftment and improvement within the university system in this country, especially as it has to do with public universities. So they have said that, look, there's a warning strike that is looming. When this happens, it's going to be a total shutdown. Lecturers are going to down tools, and we all know, without being told, what the ramifications will be in this regard. Now, the question is, what is giving rise to this industrial action that has been proposed by the Academic Staff Union of Universities? They say that there's an understanding, there's an agreement, MOU they call it, from 2009 between the union and the federal government, right? That most of the clauses, most of the items that we agreed upon, mutually agreed upon in that 2009 agreement, have not been implemented till today. Now do the math real quick. That's 16 years and counting. So you're asking yourself, between 2009 and 2025, how many presidents or how many governments have we had in this country? And then you follow that up with another question. How is it that up until this point those issues are not being implemented? Of course, on television and everywhere else, we've seen the back and forth, we've seen the bad blood. In some cases, we've seen altercation between the executive of ASUU and then those on the federal government side. We've even seen a former Minister of Labor in this country get personal in some cases with the leadership of ASUU, especially with its then president. But the question is, will this solve the problem? Are we really committed, in the real sense of the word, with all sincerity of purpose, to advancing university education in this country? There are people who have argued that, look, politicians and indeed all of those, or most of those in public office, do not take the university education seriously, because they realize that for the most part their children and other loved ones do not school in some cases in Africa. So they're not bothered, they don't feel the pinch. You know what they say, he who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. Therefore they pay lip service to all of these issues. But again, let's break it down a little. How much do we budget for education? I mean, looking at our annual budgetary cycle, all right? And then ultimately, how much of that money or that amount gets released, all right? And to what areas are they released? And then you also ask yourself, who are held accountable for how these monies are spent? These are issues we need to deal with. Now, there are those who have argued that, look, ASUU only calls for strike where it has to do with their personal or selfish interest, that is the interest of members of the union or the lecturers themselves. But ASUU has also come out to say, look, even if, I mean, just assuming without conceding, all right, for the purpose of the conversation, that we were doing this from the standpoint of personal interest, is it not when the lecturers, all right, are well paid, paid on time, well remunerated, and their welfare is made an issue of priority, that the education system can also in itself advance? All right, that's a question that can be subject to, who knows, maybe a symposium someday. But quite frankly, as of today, the point being made is this. When you go to our universities, I'm saying the public universities, whether federal government as they call them or state-owned, for instance, are you seeing the hostels? Should those be the minimum standards for a hostel in a private university at the turn of the 21st century? That's the first question. The second question is the overall learning environment. Is it conducive enough? The administrative process and what have you, is that what it should be for a country that wants to compete with other countries? When we say we are competing, or when we talk about competitive advantage, what do we bring in this regard when it has to do with our public education? I mean, you go to the registry, for example, of as we call them, exams and records of a public university to obtain your transcripts. The process is as rigorous as though you're back to start your study from scratch. And you're asking yourself, is it not possible to automate all of these things, make them go digital to the point that all you have to do is punch in your unique identifier, maybe your matric number, your whatever kind of number, just to get these things done. You pay the fee virtually, and the rest is history. But we still want to do it the manual way. We still want to do it the analog way. We still want to do it as it was back in the day and things like that. These are systemic issues that must be addressed. I mean, we live in a country where in our very face, under our nose, a former Minister of Education had admitted that he didn't want the job. He was not particularly eligible for the job, but the job, however, was given to him. All right, so what do you expect such a man to bring to the table? Running the university system of a country as big, as vastly populated with people of all kinds of elements, I mean, intelligent, sound, and industrious, hardworking, innovative, creative. All right, at this point in time in our history, where we say by 2030, we want to achieve a $1 trillion economy. All right, we're going to take a quick break now. We'll bring you papers today. By way of doing that, we will be able to provide deeper insights into this issue about ASUU and the proposed industrial action. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, let's turn to the papers for you. And our first port of call is the Nigerian Tribune this morning. All right, so let's begin with the headline just above the nameplate, top left corner of it. It says federal government to clear retirees' pension backlogs with 758 billion naira bond. CBN goes tough on POS operators, orders geotagging of terminals to tackle fraud, increase surveillance. This is not just brilliant, it is innovative and radically creative. Because, I mean, if you can geotag phones, for example, if I have a device in the studio this morning, all right, and I were to do anything untoward or whatever it is I do, and then there's need to backtrack a little, all right, due diligence, what have you. there's already a technology in place that's been here for years with which you can identify the location of that phone, all right, whether it's a phone, it's a laptop, or even a tablet. But with the case of POS terminals, it's a different kettle of fish altogether. So the CBN is now saying that banks are now being mandated, all right, to ensure that they geotag their point of sale terminals in such a way that if I go, I mean, for those of us in the Federal Capital Territory, if I were to go to somewhere around, let's say, Area 3, or let's say somewhere like Wuse Zone 5, to use a POS in front of a particular school, it means that if there is need to backtrack to identify where a particular transaction on that POS terminal was carried out, there is no hard or fast rule about it. All you have to do is use the geotag features to identify it. In the first instance, that's where you have the IP, Internet Protocol, for example, in addition to several other identifying elements with which you can track down these devices. Just to be clear, the CBN has now given deposit money banks across the country 30 days already effective to ensure that this geotagging is done. Otherwise, the regulatory bank says there will be very stringent penalties. That's some progress we are making here, isn't it? Hopefully, Kikalomo Okere will also discuss these issues on her business points, distance time. All right, but we have a big story here on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune today. The headline says 2027, despite endorsing Tinubu, APC throws tickets open. Those details are on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. All right. On the next side of it, it says, Ondo government bans elaborate graduation ceremonies for nursery JSS pupils. Nigeria loses 455 billion naira annually to poor sanitation. What can we do to checkmate that? Well, hopefully you find an answer on page 3. 56% of Nigerians living below poverty line. That claim is credited to the president of the Trade Union Council of Nigeria. All right. What else do we have here? It says on health, paracetamol, ibuprofen quietly fueling antibiotic resistance, evolving global health problem. That's according to some study. You can read all those details on page 4. And then what's more, lastly here, it says China boosts Nigeria's flood relief efforts with $1 million by Goodwill growing trade between countries. That sounds great, but let's flip it over now to the Vanguard newspaper for you, which is also a bit more loaded in terms of the volume of headlines. But the star headline is the first, with a kicker that says 2027 presidency, zoning causes rumpus, PDP intensifies move to woo Jonathan. And then we have 4 riders, I should say, underneath it. The first one says, ex-president still consulting. Sources, PDP zoning decision won't stand. Olawekbo Hashim. Zoning presidency to South, not to glorify Wike, PDP. It's sacrifice for unity. Bala Mohammed, that's the governor of Bauchi State, to whom that is credited. Let's move it a notch higher on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Capital market surge proves investor confidence in Nigeria's reforms. That's according to Tinubu. Jonathan slams defections, seeks electoral reforms. FG ASU meets today, allows our leads push to resolve issues. Uzodinma raises minimum wage to 104,000 naira. Imo workers jubilate, of course. We understand he has done that across board, even for doctors, for example, whose salaries have now moved from somewhere around 220,000 naira to a little over 500,000 naira. But people have also raised concerns about the sustainability or otherwise of this otherwise laudable move. They're asking, when the man's second and indeed last term cycles out and then there is a new government in Owerri, what happens? Will this continue? Of course, it has to, because this is a move that has come to stay, and the only challenge will be, however, that paying as and when due will now become the challenge. So it raises the concern around whether we are going to, at any point in time, all right, have a situation where you have salary arrears for months on end and government is not paying, and then you're seeing protest after protest after protest across the state. Well, again, this is a laudable move because the economy has evolved so drastically the last 2 years, and as such, it's only natural that forward-thinking governments, federal or subnational, should look inward and reappraise the economic realities that citizens are dealing with. All right, let's move things a bit to the bottom a little now. Still on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Here it says 762 Nigerians killed by kidnappers in 1 year. That's according to reports. The writer tells us Presidency, NSA, Police Headquarters, NCTC keep mum. Voter apathy aids bad leaders, Khan warns Nigerians. I wait full briefing on Abuja Kaduna train disaster. That's Tinubu. 2027, our presidential ticket open despite endorsing Tinubu APC. We'll see how that pans out ultimately. And then a bit of sports from the Vanguard this morning. 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Super Eagles will prove doubters wrong. That's according to coach Eric Schill. Right, you read up details from the Vanguard newspaper today, by all means. All right, then of course we have the next paper, which is the Daily Sun newspaper. We begin the Daily Sun newspaper with the headline adjacent to the nameplate for you. It says 8 feared killed in Lagos crisis. That's quite a number of lives to lose over a crisis. Banks face capital discipline test as CBN's grace window narrows. Tinubu hails capital market growth meets NGX board SEC chief in Brazil. 2009 deal. FG moves to avert ASU strike. What is the federal government doing to avert it? Well, there are 4 riders here. The first one says, holds meeting with union leaders today. We are not invited. Yeah, it says we're not invited. Varsity teachers. Osaka zone notifies students, parents of imminent industrial action. Tinubu pledges tech-led growth, food security, urges diaspora to build Nigeria's future. Then it says, by way of a rider here, Soyinka-led voyage of return from Brazil to Nigeria. FCT PDP leaders reject zoning of party's presidential ticket to South. 2027, Ohaneze dismisses no Igbo presidential candidacy story. Imo okay's 104,000 naira as minimum wage for workers. Orders clearance of 16 billion naira gratuity arrears. This is quite a big move by Imo State government under the leadership of Governor Hope Uzodinma. All right, well, those are your headlines from the Daily Sun this morning. We leave that paper now to move on to the Daily Times newspaper. On the Daily Times newspaper, first we start with the one just here in front of it, the big story. It says 239 first-class lecturers quit Unilag over poor pay, XVC reveals. All right, again, it has to do with pay. Quite interesting. Above that, it says train derailment. We can't dismiss any leads. Okmefa, that's the managing director of the Nigeria Railway Corporation, there with his picture. All right, bottom right, NLC to federal government. Inaugurate PENCOM board immediately. Nigeria High Commission in the United Kingdom not involved in extortion. That's according to Can UK. Review of Nigeria's laws vital for good governance, survival of democracy, according to Attorney General of the Federation, who doubles as Minister of Justice. Lawyers, security chiefs clash at NBA annual conference, which is ongoing in Enugu. We will continue to bring you highlights from that annual general conference, and then, of course, also in particular on scale of justice here on Global Television. All right. Then we move on, leaving the Daily Times now to look at the Nation newspaper for you. All right. We begin with the headlines above the name master of the Nation newspaper. Top left corner first here. It says federal government ASU talks raise True's hope. We understand those talks have been scheduled for today, hopefully led by Minister of Education Tuja Lausa and of course Minister of Labour. I have opted out of 2027 race in party's interest, says Bala. That's the governor of Bauchi State there talking. Ondo bans graduation of primary school JSS 3 pupils. 104,000 naira minimum wage excites Imo workers, of course, as expected. China's $1 million for flood relief. All right, China's $1 million for flood relief. Kano government raises panel to probe Gandhi. And then what does we have here? It says the big one, 2027 is a kicker. It says why Jonathan won't run. What's the reason? Well, there's a writer. It says ex-president won't allow destruction of South's solidarity. All right. And then here it says emerging economies models are goal. Emerging economies model goals. President assures Nigerians. Judiciary is on trial, says FHC Chief Judge. That's the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. And then we have the last headline for you from the Nation newspaper this morning. It says police to arraign Showore for false publication, forgery, September 15. Okay, that's just in about 18 days from today. In the meantime, we understand that there's also a court order now mandating about 26 banks to, at least 26 of them, to release documents related to his accounts and all the transactions there, given the charges with which he has been slammed. Those are your headlines from the Nation newspaper today. Go grab a copy for yourself and then be able to find context and perspectives. Okay, but let's turn to the Guardian newspaper. That's our next port of call this morning, the Guardian newspaper, just before we go on a break. It says here with a picture of Minister of Education Tunji Alausa. Alausa moves to resolve ASU crisis as FG meets union today. Tinubu justifies bitter pills of reform, Lord citizens' patience. Ondo joins states banning graduation ceremonies in nursery, junior, secondary schools. Then the Star headline with a kicker, corrections and penal reforms. How waning funding legal aid keep 53,460 pre-trial inmates in jail. Igbo leaders demand binding MOU for 2027 supports as ABGA backs Tinubu. Falano Ezekwesili Sule task lawyers on socio-economic rights, Electoral Act. All right, what more do we have here? It says tariff hike costs 2.4 million off internet amid soaring data consumption. That's quite a large number. 2.4 million people cut off from the internet on account of surge in costs of data. That's quite interesting, but what more can we say? Again, read up those details from the Guardian newspaper. We'll take a break now. When we return, we'll have a few more papers for you. Please stay with us. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, there's just one more paper we need to bring it today before we are done all together. All right, and that will be the Punch newspaper. We begin from the top left corner of the paper with a picture of former President Goodluck Jonathan there. It says, Jonathan demands credible INEC chair, decries defections. FG nets 393 billion naira tax from Dangote, 9 others. APC mocks ADC over chairmanship tussle. And then adjacent the Punch newspaper, 2027, party members can challenge Tinubu, says APC. What does the Star headline say with a kicker here? Strike threats, ASU VCs decry Prof's 525,000 naira monthly pay. What's more, Dons insist on salary review as senior lecturers earn 386,000 naira. Education Labour Ministers meets today. Okay, and then at the bottom of the paper, Judge Monarch Oshun to obtain U.S. court's judgment. And then one more here says Lagos man killed in fight, suspects arrested. Finally, Nigerians spent 1.3 trillion naira on petrol in June. That's according to the NMDPRA. That's the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency. Well, those are the papers we have for you today. Do well to read up details for yourself. That way you can achieve at least two things in addition to adding to knowledge. All right, you will avoid fake news and also be able to find your way around misinformation. All right, we take another quick break now. When we return, we will bring you the rest of the program. Please do stay with us. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What is your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Beyond saying that the young people of today are the leaders of tomorrow, more than ever before, the conversation around what must be done to empower and equip these young people today for the future of leadership has become very pivotal. However, the challenge in the case of Nigeria is that there are several obstacles that tend to stand in the way of these young people. Access to education uninterrupted, especially within the public system, is one of them. For those who say, well, they need, say, startup capital to set up a business, access to finance is also another challenge. In spite of all of these headwinds, we see young people day after day across different sectors thriving and pushing the frontiers one step at a time. In Nigeria today, for instance, we have the Not Too Young to Run Act, which just a few years ago, when it got signed into law by former presidents, now deceased Muhammadu Buhari, a lot of Nigerians said, look, this will be a game changer. It's been a few years down the line, for instance. How much and to what extent has that piece of legislation influenced how much of participation young people are allowed into the space of leadership in this country, especially within the public space? This morning, we want to have that conversation, and I'm joined by a dynamic, very knowledgeable, well, again, a young man like myself, to push this conversation, get interactive, and highlight some of these challenges and the prospects for you in the course of the show this morning. Manasseh David Tashi is a social justice advocate. He joins me now to just begin the talking. Manasseh, first of all, thank you for making it to the program.
Thank you very much.
This morning. But I'd like to start off with you by asking, for instance, I mean, first-hand experience, as they say. You have done a lot of work here and there, civic engagement, trying to pull other young people like yourself along, shine a light, as they say. What are some challenges you'd like to maybe highlight for us this morning that you have come to face with, come face to face with?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Some of the challenges I've faced in my journey of development is, sorry to say, trying to get the right people that will guide me in my journey. And some people come up with beautiful ideas and present it very well, but the intention towards it is not really good. So getting the right people and having access to mentorship, people who will sacrifice time to mentor you, was quite challenging. But I was able to navigate through resilience.
Through resilience, that's quite instructive. You know, people talk about resilience, they talk about tenacity, they say you need to have grit. All right, so keep going and things like that. But I mean, you're substantially educated, for example, right? How much role does education, especially formal structured education, play in terms of molding the future leaders today?
Okay, it plays a very vital role. And from experience, that what makes up a leader is your ability to be able to speak fluently, to speak effectively, to communicate effectively, and your ability to be able to write your ideas. You will find yourself in a certain way you need to speak up your ideas, and some places you will not be given that opportunity to speak up. You only write down. So if you have good writing skills and good speaking skills, it will pave way for you to go further. And learning some soft skills, like skills like leadership, advocacy, project writing, and other soft skills like that will go a long way to help you. So knowledge is very important in driving change. So you need to be knowledgeable on what you are advocating for.
No, you use the phrase driving change. Sounds very interesting, and I must say quite inspiring. There are people who say that one of the things former U.S. President Barack Obama did many years ago was to start from his neighborhood somewhere in his home state of Illinois, trying to help people in communities, help them solve some practical problems, no matter how small those problems were, things like that, creating awareness about their rights, and all of those issues around social life and stuff. And of course, so the rest of the history, how he rose to become the U.S. president, first black man in the history of the U.S. to have become the president. In the case of Nigeria, conversely, everybody wants to be the governor, everybody wants to be the senator, everybody wants to be the president. I mean, you are a young person who is already starting from, you have the bottom-up approach to leadership, for example. What are we missing in a country where everybody wants to go to the top, forgetting that it's supposed to be brick upon brick?
Okay, thank you for that question. My perspective about leadership is not title. Leadership is service. rendering service to humanity. So you must not be a president, but you can do better than a president. You must not be a governor, but you can do better than a governor. There is need for young people in Nigeria to rethink and come up with innovative strategies that will cause development in their local communities. Just as you've made mention of Barack Obama and other notable leaders who did a lot of amazing works in their community. So we will not deny the fact that community development and youth development is very important in driving change. So we, as young Nigerians, we need to have that consciousness that we owe our community a duty of making, driving change and making progresses daily in our community. So it will start little, not by organizing a big campaign. You can leverage on social media and advocate for a cause that you know that will benefit your community. For instance, it may be social accountability challenge that leaders are not being accountable. A group of young people can team up to come up with an innovative idea that they could approach such leaders and interact with them and dialogue with them to see how they will be able to come together to solve that problem. So I think the place of community development and it's very important for young people to know that it is a tool for driving change, and I strongly believe that I am the change I want to see in my community.
Again, let's maybe at this point, if you like, let's place it into two parts: leadership. There's the private sector end of it. There's the public service and things like that. There are people who are doing a lot of work. Young people, I mean, in the private sector, whether they are in tech, they are in agriculture, they are in health or education, they are doing a whole lot of work. What should determine, as a young person, where you make your impact? Is it about the trend? For example, these days we have a lot of creatives out there, influencers as they call them, right? Who take their devices, their cameras, they are doing a lot of things, some of them to the extreme on a negative note and all of that. But as a young person, what should guide you when you say, I want to make an impact, like you say, I want to be the change I need to see? Is it informed by what you studied in school or what you're studying in school, or by your natural flair to say, this is one area I've been very passionate about?
Okay, thank you for that question. Passion is very key in change making, in driving change. And you must not it must not be necessary. Your area of interest depends on what you are interested in.
Right.
For me, I studied mass communication, and I do a lot of works around climate change, development communication, social accountability, and other works like that. So, and because I studied, someone will say, okay, climate change is a scientific-oriented space, and somebody from this discipline is...
How did you do that transition?
Okay. I participate in climate change advocacy through digital storytelling. I help people tell the story of the environment and advocate for change, how they could live sustainably in their environment. And some of the basic concepts of climate change, I have to go deep and learn them, so that I'll break as a communicator. I'll break it to let me use this as the lay people, so that they can the common man in the street can understand what climate change is and the effect it has in our immediate environment. And so it's very important that they know that it will not be the course they studied, but what they are passionate about, so they can build skills and learn it. And one thing again is the challenge in the community. What is your community? What challenge is your community facing currently? So as a change maker or change driver, you need to be informed about the current situation in your community and come up with initiative through collaboration, partnerships to see how you solve that problem. So I think that's
You know, you just mentioned accountability. I think in the course of this conversation so far, you mentioned it twice. For Nigeria as a country, it looks more like either the elephant in the room, as I say, or something we just mouth. We just talk about, but we're not paying real attention to it. We're not being deliberate about it. As a young person, how much can you do, regardless of your field of endeavor, your area of practice, to hold leaders accountable? We're not just talking about the president. We're not just talking about the governor or the federal legislators. We're talking about those who have been entrusted with public office, local government chairman, councillor, commissioners, what have you. What can we do to hold them accountable beyond going to X or Twitter, as we used to call it, or Facebook, to insult them and cast aspersions? What can we do in practice to drive accountability as young people?
Okay. As young people, my understanding of governance is the common man is part of the government, not people who are in power that are only the government. So everybody is part of the government, and we need to be part of the governing process, not just casting elections in general elections and that's all, but participating in the activities of government. So you asked a very vital question: how will young people hold leaders accountable, aside from going to social media and dragging them? So the House of Assembly or the local government legislative council, they have public hearing and town halls meeting they do in their various constituency or communities. So are young people really participating in that activities? These are activities that you will meet with your leaders one-on-one to ask them questions and to also tell them what the people need. So in the town hall, the leader comes with his team and have a town hall meeting with the community. The community should use that avenue to tell the leaders that this is what we need in our community. This is what we want you to do in our community, and you are not doing it. They can draw the attention of that leader. And also following a budget allocation. Every state has a budget. Every local government has a budget. Every community, there is a certain amount of money that they need to benefit for the development of that community. Are young people aware of that? If they are not aware of it, so they need to sit up and follow government activities so that they will be aware of it and follow their leaders and hold them accountable, so that they will be able to benefit such kind of services and infrastructural amenities that have been allocated to their communities.
You see, they say in law, I can't say that in Latin really, because I'm not going to study law just yet, but I understand that it is said he who must come to equity has got to come with clean hands, right? Young people these days, I want to ask you this, have they really set the standard enough to hold politicians in particular accountable? I'm asking that because you look at the student union government system we have across universities in this country today. When they conduct their elections, I'm not going to be the one to tell you what usually happens. You go to the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS. When they conduct elections, I won't be the one to tell you what will happen. Most times, these elections end violently. You're talking about one person dying, you're talking about vehicles being burnt, you're talking about people being macheted and things like that. These are supposed to be future leaders. Morally and ethically, do people like this have locus standi, as they say? All right, do they have basis? Do they have grounds to hold leaders accountable when they, on their own level, have not set the right example?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And there is more that needs to be done in that aspect. The young people need to really sit up in that aspect. They need to, if you're advocating for change, just like I've said earlier, you are the change that you deserve.
You need to be that change.
Yes, you need to be that change. So I participated in student union government. And
were you violent?
I wasn't. And I participated actively as a senator representing my faculty in SUG House of Parliament, University of Jos. And I did beautiful works. And just as we were sharing, not only violence, and there are some certain things that we needed to do but the funds were not accessible, so to say, so we could not do those things, those beautiful plans we have to do for the welfare of the students.
Right.
And coming to see how young people are, so, and some of them, it will amaze you to know that they are being sponsored by some political figure.
Those in the mainstream politics.
Yes, in the mainstream politics.
Right.
So, you know, and the young people, there's need for them to sit up in that aspect, because a lot is not going on well, aside from, and some of them will sponsor these young people in school, and they want them to be their data boys, like to be sharing their pictures online and to be doing some activities for them and campaigns like that.
Right.
But we need to get it right in terms of leadership. Just as I've said, leadership is service, it's not title. So we must come to that point that anybody that's holding position, he's a servant sent by the people to serve.
Yeah.
So when we learn servanthood leadership, it's going a long way to help our country in development. We'll not be thinking on how to enrich our pockets, but we'll be thinking on what will I do to better the system? How do what initiative do I come up with that will improve, that we will like strengthen strong institutions in the governance process in Nigeria. So these are some of the things that we need to think, and mentorship is very, very important. Just
Right.
as I've said,
Do we take that seriously, mentorship? Are we very committed to mentorship in this country?
yeah, to those who are passionate about change and the vision and passion they have,
Right.
they will look at people who are working in line with what they want to achieve, and they will now align with them and learn from them. And I think to some extent we're trying, and our past, some of our leaders have been doing that. I attended presidential mentorship retreats by His Excellency, the former president of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. He pulled about 50 of young African youths to train them on leadership development, and so I think our leaders are doing, and lots of civil society are doing mentorship programs in that regard. But the area where I am seeing it from young people are not really serious about it. So I want to call young people to be serious about mentorship and to align with people they feel that they can learn from them, and not just learning. They can learn character from them. In as much as we're talking about leadership, character is very, very important in it.
Yeah, character, quite frankly. I mean, you talked about governance a while ago and a couple of other things, right? In recent years, there have been calls saying, look, let's teach civic education at a standard level, all right? Let it be a curricular element, so that when young people, children go to school from elementary level, they're learning civic and things like that. How much of a difference for the better would that make?
Okay, it will make a huge difference because while I was schooling in secondary school, I learned about in government and the same civic education. No, okay, before civic education was introduced, government and social studies. I learned about arms of government and other aspects of government, institutions.
The responsibilities of the citizen.
Yes, and all these things, I learned it from school. So I was able to build that knowledge after school, and going back to the university, they have Nigerian people and culture, which captures the governance and aspects of the country.
Across all the universities in the country.
Yes, is the general course that a year one student in every university takes. So, and which I see it's very good. And we cannot wait for government to do everything. As a young person, there are like online platforms that we could leverage on to pick courses that will help us to know better about government. So it's not everything. You believe with me that it's not everything that you do. You were taught from school. There are some things that naturally you say, oh, I don't know this. I just need to know it. So there's need for young people to be inquisitive, to learn. There are 101 platforms that they can learn from, even aside from school. their digital platform with just a little data. You can browse and even take a course that will earn you certificate, and all this is for your own development.
The internet has become a blessing for the most part across the world, of course in Nigeria as well. Even though we know there are those who can argue and say, well, the internet can also be a curse if we do not deploy it properly. Today, the news is reporting that at least 2.4 million Nigerians have been cut off from the internet because of the spike, or if you like, the hike in price of data. But I want us to talk about the internet and how young people are using it. Today, internet fraud is rampant. I mean, it's public knowledge. You can almost wake up in the morning and tell yourself today there will be a story around internet fraudsters. Some of them arrested in one part of the country or the other. Can we still be hopeful that we still have young people in this country who are forward-thinking, level-headed, cool-headed, what have you, to push the leadership narrative beyond the current generation? I mean, we're talking about a good number of young people now taking to fraud, and that's disturbing.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And I think more needs to be done. Cybersecurity is a very important issue that every country wants to protect its cyberspace. And even as individuals, there's need for us to do that. And coming to young people who are leveraging on the internet to defraud people, which is not a good practice in every country. So such young people that are doing that, they fail to understand that there is more that needs to be done. You don't need to defraud somebody to make money on the internet. You can make money on the internet and depend on your innovation, your creativity, and your entrepreneurial skills that you have. You can come up with a beautiful idea, like the Uber, the Bolt, and it's people's idea. They had that idea, they wrote it on paper, and they leverage on technology to see how they could make money from that aspect. Even the Facebook, the Meta app, and other social media handles. It was invented by young people in other countries that they saw that there was a challenge. So they were able to provide solution to bring that challenge, and they were earning from that solutions they provide. So I want to call on young people to leverage on social media positively, not negatively in what is trending. You go to every corner of the street, you see Yahoo boys, like carrying out activities. You know, it's quite rampant in Nigeria, and especially where I'm coming from. So I want to call on young people to rethink and come up with innovative strategies that they will solve community problem with the internet, and they will as well earn from that problem they are solving.
All right. We're going to take a quick break at this point, everyone. So much to talk about here regarding this issue. When we return, we'll turn to politics and young people. What can they do to enhance their participation in the process? All of that and more coming shortly. Don't go away. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
We're looking at the challenges and prospects for young people where leadership is concerned, how they can engage better and be more impact-minded regardless of the obstacles. Minister, let me ask you this. I mean, first of all, the continuous voter registration being midwifed by the Independent National Electoral Commission has been on now for a few days. They say you can't change, you can't determine the kind of leadership you want unless, of course, you participate in the process. And interestingly, you can't also participate in the process if you do not vote. You can't vote if you do not have your permanent voter card. As it stands today, when you look at the results we're seeing, I mean, the turnout, the response to the calls by INEC for people to come and register, especially young people, do you find it inspiring? Is it encouraging? Or you look at it and say, oh, no, we can do better than this?
Okay. We can do better than what is currently on ground. And there is a lot of young people are losing interest in voting during elections. They're losing interest in coming out to vote, and some of them for obvious reasons that their votes don't count. So if really these votes are not counted, there will not be emergence of leaders in positions. So though the process may not be will not be excellently well as they want it to be, but we believe we are growing every day and things will get better. There are lots of improvements in INEC, so to say. So young people, if they will not come out to vote, to register, that is new voters coming out to register in the continuous voters registration a platform, they should not complain. They should keep short.
Because so it's garbage in, garbage out.
Yes. So if you didn't participate in a process, how will you be able to challenge that process? So coming out to vote is your civic responsibility. You are showing patriotism to Nigeria because you are a citizen and you are eligible to vote. So coming out to vote makes you to be a responsible citizen. So if anything is going on in the country that you are not happy with, you have the right to air out your view in an appropriate way that will be heard and possibly it will be worked on. And I have this belief that if you didn't even vote and if you even pray for our leaders, God will not answer your prayer
because you've not done your part.
You've not done your part. So it's very important that young people need to know it is not just social media ranting. They should come out and participate in that continuous voters elections registration. Young people who have not registered or they have like a problem of relocation or any issue, they can. The platform is user friendly. So currently, we have an initiative that we want to launch and assist young Nigerians who have not registered to get registered and help them in the process of getting their voters registration, because most of them are not even aware there is a platform. So we are creating awareness in that regard, and we intend to reach out to 10,000 young people as through our initiative to see how they get registered in the continuous voters registration. So.
Quite interesting. Let's talk about politics proper now, right? Often when you have conversations like this, of course, off camera, you hear young people say things like, this old guard needs to leave. These people are old. They need to allow the young ones come into the space. Is leadership about age or about competence and love for country first?
Okay. Leadership is first of all, I want to say it's competence. It's competence. What you are having to offer, the services you are having to offer.
Right.
And if there is a credible person that has it more, it's opportunity should be given to that person. And I also have that. Perspective, the leadership is in that what you have to offer. So how innovative it is, how creative is it that idea that you want to offer.
Right.
So, and I see young people, they are full of creativity, innovation, they're full of life, and they have amazing things that they can bring to the table. So, and in that regard, I would say young people should be given opportunity to also participate because of the creativity they have, the power they have, and the vigor to drive change that they have. So, you may have an idea, but you may not have really the power to go about advocating for that idea now to people so that they'll be able to know. But young people have that full potentials of participating. So why not opportunity be given to them if they are really competent to serve?
When you talk about competence, it sounds very valid because ideally those are the variables we should be looking at: competence, patriotism, like you mentioned earlier, the ability to drive change. Of course, you need to also have this established track record of where you have led in the past, no matter what the level is or the ecosystem and things like that. But then, in the case of Nigeria, for example, for you to fully participate in politics, you've got to be affiliated with a political party. Up until this minute, there are still questions around how our political parties function. Some people say the space for young people within political parties across board is very narrow. So you see young people being youth leader, national youth leader, zonal youth leader, vice youth leader, blah, 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 and things like that, right? How do we rethink the process? Yes, we have for example, Young People's Party, but somebody once asked, are the people running the party actually young? So how do young people now redefine themselves to say, look, we are not doing this from a place of ambition, unhealthy ambition, but we're driven by the love for country, and we want to redefine the space and things like that without just shouting, let the old guard go, let the old guard go.
Okay. So, and there is need to change some of the political parties process or a system
to reform them.
Yes, to reform them because some of the conditions the cost for purchasing the form to run for a legislative position in the National Assembly is quite expensive.
Just to aspire, you are not even the candidate yet.
Yes, and the costs of all these things are quite they are very cost. The forms are the prices are high that a low Nigerian can get it. So and it's a way I see it as a deliberate effort to frustrate young people who are passionate to go.
But they don't have the means.
Yes, but they don't have the means. So and it is some of their procedures and systems are not inclusive.
Right.
They didn't include young people in it. So and which there's need that they need to reform those systems because you are telling somebody to buy a form of 50 million, a young person. So it's in today's economy, it's almost impossible. And what they do is they just give them a youth leader position, or what they say, okay, let's just make it just dot an I in the crowd. So they will just sponsor few young people and just give them that opportunity, and they will be working under their own control, which is not supposed to be like that. So I think that political parties need to reform their laws and their procedures, their systems, so that young people can actively participate in the governance systems in Nigeria. And opportunity are not being given to young people. Look, we are not sitting down to fold our arms and say, okay, just bring us in. We are making efforts, so let that efforts be acknowledged. So if you have been running this thing for long and we are still slacking, why not bring us in? Let's contribute our ideas, our innovation, and what we have to offer. At least, and that we have a quite number of things that we want to bring to the table, innovations that we have gone even outside the country to see, and believe you me, the young person is full of innovative and creative ideas, and you know, just see how they can bring that change in. So opportunity needs to be given to young people, and platforms need to be created for inclusive governance, and it must start from the political party.
I want to take you back to, as we wrap up now, something that is away from politics. We have young people now. I mean, there's a plethora of young people across social media doing content creation. Most of them, as they say, are cashing out. I mean, legitimately, these are not people doing anything against the law. They are doing this legally and legitimately, like I said. But then, many of them have also come under fire for controversial content that they've pushed. And some of them continue to just be controversial for obvious reasons, because they want to trend, they want to find traction, and so to be able to cash out big time. Is there any possibility that we can redirect this energy, all right, into nation building, into national development, as against just having a bunch of young people who decide to say, look, we want to be the maverick, as it were?
Yeah, so young people need to like rethink in that aspect too, because a lot of things that are going on social media is quite crazy.
Right.
You see young people dragging themselves, and over, I have 15,000 likes, over 1 million likes, and followers and all this. They are dragging themselves, and you know. But social media, it should not be like that. There are lots that need to be done aside from that. We have problem in this country. Young people are not fully participating in the process of governance. They're not being involved in the process of governance. That is a problem. So if you want to trend with the innovation you are bringing on board, not because of negative things you post on social media, dragging people there and there. You know that your hands are not clean in that aspect. So I see it that there is a lot of there is a huge derailment in that aspect. Social media is not meant for violence. It is not meant for posting of negative things, and you know, it's meant they should use it well. Young people should use social media well. You know, was inspired by one of my mentors who was sharing about how he leveraged on social media to cause a change in the community where he's serving. He went and he saw that the people were suffering. They were suffering from there's lack of water in that community. So when he saw it, he started with a hashtag save the name of the village, I forgot it. Yes, so he started it, and you know, drew attention of government and even international NGOs that came. They drilled borehole, they provided clean water in hospitals, in schools, in that community, and he helped that problem. So young people will now should be thinking towards that direction. You don't have light in your community, and you are coming on social media, you come on social media, you go and pay money to charge your phone, or struggle to charge your phone and come on social media to be doing content creation that is not promoting national unity, it's not promoting patriotism, it's not promoting development. I think there is an error in that aspect, and more needs to be done. So I want to call on young people to see it in the other aspect, that a lot of positive things need to be done now. Now that the US government are saying before you apply for visa,
5-year social media history.
Yes, 5 years social media
must be provided.
It must be provided. So, and you know, they will not, international body or organization will not just grant access to. Do not just grant visa to you if you are posting things anyhow. It's a way of scrutiny to know whether your online presence reflects what you are applying for visa to go. So, and there is what we call digital footprint. Whatever you posted today stays. It stays.
And as they say, the internet never forgets.
Yes, it never forgets.
I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Manasseh David Tashi, social justice advocate, for coming on the program today to share with us on these very important issues. This is where we're taking a break, everyone. When we return, our second conversation that focuses on Incumbency and opposition, what exactly does this combo mean for 2027 electioneering? We'll talk to you about that when we return. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What is your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, turn to politics in this second discussion on the program. The APC, the ruling party as it stands today, says that there's no vacancy in Aso Rock going into 2027. The opposition says otherwise. As a matter of fact, coalition says it strongly believes it can turn the tide around, for want of better words. What that means is that they will ensure President Bola Tinubu, should he stand for re-election, will not be successful, or, as politicians say, victorious at the polls. The APC says that will not happen because it has been able to impact Nigeria and indeed Nigerians the last 2+ years, and as such, Nigerians will follow their hearts when it comes to casting their ballot. Add to that, the PDP, which is, many believe, the leading opposition party, says that while it is not joining the coalition, it is also strong enough to go head-to-head with the APC. So, in light of this, it will appear the All Progressives Congress is fighting two battles at a time. But in all, this is what some persons have described as formidable opposition. While 2027 looks far-flung, politicians are already aligning and realigning in that direction to ensure that they put their best foot forward. This morning we're joined via Zoom from Texas in the United States by Ahmed Mahmoud. Is a member of the All Progressives Congress as well as a political commentator. Mahmoud, I'd like to say a big thank you to you. This should be quite early on your end, but we're grateful that you're going to the trouble for us this morning.
Good morning, Louis. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on this issue, and my greetings to your viewers as well.
All right, thank you. So let's put it on the road. Your party has recorded several gains since 2023 general election. I mean, all-cycle elections, everywhere else, and things like that. Today, the APC is authoritatively the ruling party in Nigeria. However, the opposition, especially from the side of the coalition, now says that it will tip the scale, in a manner of speaking, going into 2027. What exactly are the concerns, as far as you know, of the APC in light of this?
Okay, to give a little bit of context, when we refer to the coalition, we're talking about principally the ADC, because like you rightly pointed out, the PDP said they are not really interested in forming a coalition arrangement with any other party. So the ADC is principally composed of former President Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, Rotimi Amici, and a few other political bigwigs. And what have they done? They've come together under the leadership of, I think, former Senate President David Mark, and they are saying that they are in the best position to wrest power from the current ruling party of the APC, and they intend to do that by grassroots mobilization, focusing on the issues and pointing out the places that the ADC has done wrong and where they intend to do better. Now, their primary focus, like I already pointed out, is grassroots mobilization, and they are intentionally merging with other parties, but they've come out to specifically say they will not merge with PDP, and PDP has said likewise. Although they are interested in using, they are inviting individuals from either party, but the party itself will not merge with PDP. So that's something interesting to notice as you go along, because the principal officers and most of the participants and most of the coalition members are principally PDP elements, but they refuse to merge with the party. So this is something that people have to watch and understand what's going on. So they are saying no party mergers, and then what generally are we talking about a coalition? Not just disgruntled members of the APC, but generally members of all the other parties coming together to put a fight and say enough is enough of the APC. We want to put an end to their administration, and that is what we are seeing.
Well, how do we respond? I mean, you in particular being an APC member, how would you respond to the theory by some that, look, if the APC could do this in 2015, I mean, with late former President Muhammadu Buhari emerging victorious as the president, I mean, a decade ago, who says the opposition now as it stands, whether it's the PDP on the one hand or the ADC coalition on the other, or even a combination of the entire opposition, being able to do that 10 years down the line? Because whether you like it or not, it will appear you have as many influential politicians in APC as you do in the opposition. So who has competitive edge as far as this issue is concerned?
Well, as much as I wouldn't like to say there is the power of incumbency. That really speaks for itself. It tells you that the APC is not going to relinquish the position that we found ourselves, or we have worked diligently all this period of time to come into government. We have to remember that APC wasn't handed this on a platter of gold. This took several years of hard work, diligence, and continuous voter education to tell them that we have a better idea to govern, and even though there are challenges, we are better equipped to handle it. So on the other side of it, you have so many, without using the word disgruntled politicians, let's say people who have had their own chance to prove that they are able to govern. But what is the result that we have today? Most of the things that the APC is having to struggle with, both at the national and state levels, are the mistakes of the participants that you currently see trying to displace the party again. So the people are wise at this time. Yes, you are right. The APC came through a coalition several years ago, but currently it is the party on ground. It is making moves. It is correcting the errors of the past. It's doing so with transparency, with inclusivity, and it is asking the Nigerian people to continue to trust in them. So we see that there is opposition. Naturally, there should be opposition in every political arrangement, but it's not something that is going to cause sleepless nights to the current ruling party. No.
We keep hearing disgruntled politicians. I mean, that's almost an instinctive way of referring to those who are in the opposition. But, I mean, you mentioned Malam Nasiru El-Rufai just a while ago, immediate past governor of Kaduna State, someone who has left the APC. You have quite a number of them like that, including Babachir Lawal, former Secretary to Government of the Federation, and all of that. So if you have big names like this, including Dr. Ahmed, former special advisor to, who also resigned from the party and left. Does that not indicate clearly that there's something internally wrong with the APC that is making these otherwise influential politicians to live with their clouds?
Well, That's a double-edged sword, because first of all, you have to realize that political ambition is something that you cannot always control or mandate or guide. Whoever it is that you want to mention that is in the opposition, it's not necessarily as a result of the wrong policies of the APC, but it also, you can ascribe some of it to political ambition and the idea or the knowledge that if they stay in the party because of established figures, it will be difficult for them to be given the opportunity to serve, not just because they are not qualified, but because the members of the APC are well positioned to fill in those any vacuum that is created in power. Now, we must be clear that aggrieved politicians or aggrieved elements are not necessarily on the outside. There are also internally aggrieved people who are not happy with either the fallout of the political process, who don't feel as if their own political ambitions are served. There are also former aspirants, faction leaders, regional or ethnic blocs, power brokers, and common reasons for disgruntlement or discontent within any political arrangement will be party disputes, unmet political promises, loss of patronage or influence, political disagreements. There are so many things that can be listed. So we don't always like to say disgruntled, but the point of it is that in every political contest, there will be winners and there will be losers. And the losers will always find a means to express themselves. And this is what you are seeing. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. We also encourage opposition in any democratic practice. Opposition keeps the national government or the government in power on its toes. We're happy about it. We welcome it because we also look forward to hearing the other side of the argument, where things are done wrong and how they can be improved on.
I asked that question, Mahmood, because I talk to members of your party a lot on and off television. Just in the course of the week, this week now, one of them said there are those still in the party. I mean, they've not left the party, but they are disgruntled because by now they thought they would either have been appointed or at least given some sort of patronage, maybe by way of contract or something like that, because these are people, as politicians always say, have worked for the party, and they particularly worked for the APC, and indeed President Bola Tinubu going into the 2023 general election. Is the APC driving any sort of mechanism to address the grievances of these people? Because there are members of your party who say these people are even worse, being on the inside, than those who have formerly left your party.
Well, to the best of my knowledge, the internal reward mechanism system of the APC, even though it's commendable, there have been a lot of shortfalls. We've had a lot of these people that you referred to as saying they are not satisfied either with the reward system or the application of the reward system. It calls to mind particularly where the president is from, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that's the Southwest. You've had a lot of aggrieved members of the party who come forward and say the reward system is skewed in favor of a particular part of the country, or that they have been left out in the power play or the scheming and all the rest of what have you. It's important to realize that we cannot all be part of government at every point in time, or at any point in time for that matter. There's the possibility to contribute your own best, your quota from the outside. A lot of these individuals, even though their own ambition is either to participate in government or to have a say or to remain relevant, most of their utterances have to be looked at from that point of view. But I do not believe that everybody has to be a part of government, even though that is the wish of a politician. They want to remain relevant. Sometimes, if we look at some of their utterances from that prism, it's easy to understand where they are coming from. However, it is also fortunate when you find the meeting of ambition and the possibility of serving one's fatherland and giving your utmost in every position. So this is something that has to be continuously addressed. Aggrieved members must be invited to have their say, even if not their way. And then I think that will reduce these incidences of conflict that we witness every time going into political confrontations.
Talking about pacifying aggrieved members of the All Progressives Congress, it will appear for many of these individuals, particularly those influential ones who have left your party already, it's a one-way traffic now. I mean, they are not coming back, at least not anytime soon. But let's talk about the North. People I talk to within and outside of your party say that going into 2027, President Bola Tinubu is going to have much more work, far more work to do in the North if he must win the election as against what he had done in 2023. They say this is for one. The influential figures of the APC from the North who have left the party are going to double down their efforts to ensure that, as it were, they run the president's efforts into the ground as far as the election in 2027 is concerned. The second is that we have seen even somebody as high-ranking in your party and in Nigerian politics coming on live television, national television, to say that, look, for the most part, President Bola Tinubu's appointments are skewed in favor of the Southwest. In fact, many politicians in your party who have left have referred to these individuals as Lagos boys. Will the APC live in denial about these issues, or will the party under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu be dispassionate enough to say these are serious issues we must address if we must put our foot in the door in 2027?
So it's a good, interesting observation, and the understanding, from my own understanding, is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a politician of many years, a lot of experience, and he's constantly trying to balance contending political forces, one against the other, and bring as much comfort to the party members as much as possible. However, we need to remember that following our current political balance, we have three zones that prefix North, North Central, Northeast, and Northwest, and then three zones also that prefix South. So you have Southwest, South Central, and Southwest, South South, and Southeast. So every time you say from the North and it's from one of those zones, that doesn't give you as clear a picture as if you dip in and find out where exactly or which states exactly they are from. Because that balance is difficult to maintain if you just simply say from the North. This person may be from the North Central, Northeast, or Northwest. And likewise, when you say Lagos boys, it's not necessarily Lagos boys. There is a whole combination that falls under that Lagos boys appellation, and that's the Southwest. So you have to give some credit, drill into these figures, drill into these appointments, and find out exactly where they are from. I do believe that the party continuously strives to maintain a balance between all these geopolitical zones, the appointees. But of course, people will never always be satisfied, no matter how much you try. That's not to say there isn't possibly some kind of truth in what they are saying. But we have to, by and large, give the administration as much credit as possible where it is doing right and point out what it is doing wrong. But that's not to say that these appointments, I don't agree that the appointments are skewed. I believe the administration is doing its best to maintain a geopolitical balance between all the zones, and that is representative in the appointments that it has made so far.
Once the demise of former, now late President Muhammadu Buhari was announced, one of the very first questions many politicians asked was, what happens to his 11 million votes? Some people say 12 million, but depending on what estimates you're looking at. Because they say this block actually comes from the traditional CPC. They say the CPC essentially, as a block, is not it's not in very cordial terms with President Bola Tinubu and indeed the APC as we know it today. That is a different kettle of fish altogether as a challenge for your party, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, so this is also another interesting observation that you have raised. The historical perspective of the CPC is that the late President Muhammadu Buhari of blessed memory came in with 12 million votes into the merger that they had. I think it was 2013.
2014 going into 2015.
2014 going into 2015, yes. So you had the CPC bringing its so-called 12 million votes, and it's merged with other parties, including the ACN, the ANPP, and even factions of ABGA. And then that major block that he brought in, a major voting block, is what constitutes the CPC. We have people like former Governor Makura, Dakurada, Bello Masari, General Marwa, and others who formed the core and the essential members of that CPC coming into the alliance at the time. Also, let's not forget Malam Nasir El-Rufai and some other prominent politicians. So what did this mean? It means that the APC was formed by several factions of other political parties that coalesced and came in and formed the APC. Now, with the passing of the former president of blessed memory, the question now remains, who is the so-called the prince who has inherited that voting bloc? And some people have come out to say that they've splintered away from what constituted the APC. But we've also had a counter claim from former CPC members and said they are still strong. I think I recall somebody like Farouk Aliyu and a few other members of the Osita Okechukwu and some others who came out and said, no, there hasn't been a splinter. The CPC core remains intact in the APC. You also had some other people who came out and said there is nothing like CPC anymore. Everybody has coalesced. We are now all members, equal footing members of the APC. However you choose to look at it, the core essence of APC retains the membership of the CPC without any question. The members who have splintered away are not enough to cause such a cataclysmic shift as to worry about where the interest of the CPC is. Because the one thing that you remember the former president for was his loyalty to his cause. And even when he was alive, he was told, he came out and said, there is no such thing as that CPC anymore. APC is the parent body. We are all members. We are loyal to the party and will continue to drive the policies and administration of the APC and support it as much as possible.
Quite interesting analysis there. Your party has now come out to say that, yes, even though on the one hand it has apparently endorsed President Bola Tinubu for second term, on the other hand, it's telling Nigerians that the ticket of the APC is still open. In other words, members of the party who aspire to become Nigeria's president can also throw their heart in the ring. Don't you think that comes off as double speak?
Well, going into politics, we always expect double speak. My interpretation of that would have been something in the form of the right of first refusal. Being the incumbent and currently the party flag bearer, or as at the last election, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu retains the right, not necessarily the right, but the obligation from the party. The party is obliged to introduce him as their flag bearer, because it doesn't make any sense unless he's constitutionally barred. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not constitutionally barred from going for a second term at this point in time. So what did the party do? They've come out and said, as far as the party is concerned, our preferred candidate is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. However, this contest is thrown open to any interested member of the party. You are free to express and come out and apply. But you also have to look at some of these things as, for want of a better word, let's call it a fundraising platform. Because if I recall, there were those forms were in excess of hundreds of millions of naira. So when you have people who come out and contest, even though the party has said it has a preferred candidate, the party is also going to have to raise some money somehow. They are doing, this is one of the means they do it. But we will also look forward to a robust contest. We also look forward to transparent primaries, where whoever is interested in contesting is given as much leeway to express and ventilate his own views, and give the public, give the general voting public options and say, look, I'm able to provide X, Y, and Z. This is where we can do better. This is what we've done. And this also serves, most importantly, in a democratic practice, this serves as the point where the incumbent has to come out, defend their policies, x-ray them, point out the areas they've made progress, when better things need to be done, and then own its mistakes. So this is a robust period that we are coming into, and we are looking forward to as many entrants as possible who will come and ventilate the space, who will come out and tell us what they can offer, and allow the possibility of even sidestepping the president. However, we know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done a lot. He's done very well. So that is why you see the party coming out to say, this is our preferred candidate. But the doors are not closed to anybody who wants to ventilate his own political ambition.
Let's talk quickly about what has been seen for the most part by your party as a blessing, the defection of sitting governors. I mean, by 1999, for example, when we just started this Fourth Republic, the return to democracy as we know it, not so many persons, I suppose, would have thought a day will come when a sitting governor of a particular party will defect with the chunk of his base into another party. When I was seeing that happen, we're seeing PDP governors leave their party, in some cases unapologetically, right into the APC. However, we are beginning to understand that these developments is becoming, to use your own term, a double-edged sword in some states, where, for example, the person who had been the leader of the APC in that state the entire time is now relegated to the back seat because by default, based on the way Nigeria operates, the governor becomes the leader of the party. Won't that also become, if you like, some kind of clog in the wheel of progress for your party going into the election?
No, at all. We not for nothing. If you remember the historic antecedents of the APC, you will understand that this is a process that started as far back as the amalgamation of the political parties and that forming of the coalition in 2014, like you remembered. How is this? What has happened is that the party, the core of the APC, has built itself not just from splinter groups, but it has gradually come from a state party to a regional party, and now it's in national politics. A lot of mistakes were made along the way, if you recall. If you recall something as simple as when the APC first came on national limelight, and we had members of the APC that seemed to have conflicting interests both in APC and the PDP from their own entry from the PDP into the APC. And there was a lot of confusion, for example, at the National Assembly, when we were trying to, first of all, take power from the PDP at the time, and then we had elements of the APC that pulled PDP members to become principal officers, to vote for them to become principal officers of the National Assembly at the time. So this is a normal process that you see. But by and large, political discipline, the political climate allows for leadership to rotate among people who are the leaders and then have the followers naturally follow. It is normal to find where the sitting governor, for example, brings his own political interest and subsumes them to a new political party. It's normal for all the other parties to give way and allow that governor to become the leader of the party. This is not to say that they don't have political leaders, financial leaders, economic leaders. The party arrangement is a big tent that encompasses not just political leadership, there's also economic leadership, there's historical leadership also. There are people who, by virtue of their positions, are also leaders, and they serve as the historical backbone of that party. So leadership in itself is not just what you see in front. There are even some leaders who you will not recognize because they are not called leaders in that sense of the word, but they will always be called to give their own 5 cents or 5% to whatever the party is trying to do at the point in time. So let us downplay all these things. Let us concentrate on what the party is offering, how the Nigerian people receive it, and giving the best of their own ability at every point in time.
Oh, great. Let's circle back to an issue you raised a while ago, because you said, look, President Bola Tinubu has not been constitutionally barred. Therefore, he can decide to run. I mean, it is a choice to make. Second, you said he has a right of first refusal, which is very valid. However, you also noted that this could be a process. I mean, apparently it's a process for the party to also legitimately raise funding for its own operations and all of that. Again, that is agreed. But then, does that not once again highlight the disturbing, if you like, monetization of our political process? In 2023, remember, your party sold first for 100 million, and the likes of Pastor Tunde Bakari and several others bought, and there are those who say that your party raised at least 2 billion from that transaction. That's the best word I can find for it right now. It will appear we are going that route again, and this time we are likely going to up the ante a little.
Yes, unfortunately, we cannot run away from the fact that politics is an expensive venture, and political processes are also expensive to maintain. We are talking about, just on the surface, we are talking about 774 local government areas, and then wards and units that run into several hundreds of thousands. How are all these things maintained? How are party processes maintained? How is party supremacy? How is the manifesto put forward? All these things cost money, and the party has to continuously look for ways, legitimate means and legitimate ways to continue to fund its own activities. Unfortunately, this is one of the ways that it happens. If you say, for example, that you don't want to allow the parties to fund themselves, where is the money going to come from? If a local government election is quite an expensive, you've heard, I'm sure you have heard how they rated the last elections and said a local government election runs into hundreds of millions, senatorial election runs to several hundreds of millions, and then gubernatorial elections run to several billions. So what are we talking about? The presidency. The presidency it's a very expensive endeavor. Any political party that wants to come into the fray needs to be financially capable, and they need members that are strong. So there are several ways that parties raise funds. As long as it is legitimate, we need to keep on allowing them to do that. But we must always focus on the clear division between party interest and personal interest when a party comes into power. That is where you have a lot of issues of corruption that come into play. You have members of political parties trying to divert resources in the direction of their party through illicit contracts, etc., etc. The APC has a mechanism to prevent party members from misbehaving in political office. I don't know about other parties, but I know that the APC is very strong. We have internal working mechanisms that call all these party members, remind them that this is the manifesto, and remind them the direction that the central government is taking and playing. We must continue to put our fingers and continue to ask our represented members of government to be prudent and to show due course in the management of all of our resources. This is something we have to keep on doing, and it's something I'm sure the APC does all the time.
All right, let's top it off now. On the final notes, Ahmed, the opposition figures, I mean, those we talked to, say that if they have a concern at all, if there's anything that will keep them up at night as far as 2027 is concerned, particularly on the presidential level, it is the fact that the APC is the incumbent as it stands today. And in Nigeria, we've seen the history, the pattern is there. The trajectory is established that incumbency has always been a concern, whether for good or for bad, whether right or wrong. I mean, you are also a member of the party. What will incumbency mean in this context, in this perspective, as far as the APC is concerned, and then we go into 2027 polls?
So historically, what incumbency means to the APC is we've been given a mandate by the Nigerian people, and every time that the Constitution requires a renewal of that mandate, we are bound to come to the Nigerian people and present to them a scorecard, a clear and concise scorecard, pointing out the areas that have been improved upon, the areas that still need working on, and the areas of success. We must always continue to highlight that government is an ongoing enterprise. Everybody will come, play their little part and go away. But the party in itself has the manifesto of the continuous interest of the Nigerian public, and doing so with clarity, with prudence, making sure that all of the resources of the country are put to the best use possible. The APC has made a lot of mistakes. We've also recorded a lot of tremendous successes from when we first came into government till today, and we continue to hope that that is the trajectory we will continue to operate on, with the trust and the mandate of the Nigerian people, with the inclusivity of their interests and their own input from time to time, not just directly challenging the APC, but in things like this that you see, in contests like this, where you have other people, opposition parties, coming to challenge. That challenge is what we relish, it's what we want to see. The president has come out several times to say, look, This is not a one-party state. It will never be a one-party state. As far as a challenge is concerned, as far as incumbency is concerned, it is a burden. It is not a right. And we hold and cherish that burden. We hold and cherish that right. And we look forward to fulfilling the mandate that has been given to us by the Nigerian people and doing so outstandingly.
Amazing. We hope the term federal might doesn't become a problem going into 2027 general election. We want to say a big thank you to you for staying up for the purpose of this conversation. Ahmed Mahmood, member of the APC and public affairs commentator. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you again, Uyi.
All right, so we'll take a quick break now, everyone. When we return, we'll begin to tie down on the program. Do stay with us. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
needless to say that today young people in Nigeria are faced with a myriad of challenges. But one thing we've seen is that a good number of them define those odds to continue to challenge themselves, to develop themselves, and find a way to contribute to the center, as it were, regardless of the sphere within which they operate. But then the system, by this I mean the government, must also take out time to look inward and ask questions around what exactly are the measures being put in place, initiatives being rolled out to ensure that these young people are not only gratified for today, but are empowered for tomorrow. Because when it's all said and done, the mantle of leadership will eventually land on them. And when that time comes, what they've been empowered with, what they've been equipped with, the content of their character today will be tested big time. And finally, for politicians, 2027 will not mark the end of Nigeria, which means that whatever decisions were taken today across all the political parties, we must ensure that they serve the interests, the overall interest, that is, of this nation. Because in the first instance, we are politicking, we're talking about the polls in 2027 because we do have a country. If we didn't have a country, there won't be any need talking about elections. Therefore, whatever we do has got to be motivated by love for country. And for our viewers, and indeed members of the public, the continuous voter registration exercise put together by the Independent National Electoral Commission is on. If you have not registered at all, you registered, you want to move your PVC, that is your permanent voter card, to a new location, please go to INEC website, get that done. There are several ways you can do that. Go to the internet. You can do that on their social media platforms. Get the information there. Go to their website, initiate the process, and whatever is left, you can do at the nearest INEC local government office. All of this means that we must show love for country beyond who is in power today or what political party is driving whatever reforms or agenda. And again, remember that all of the newspaper headlines I will bring to you here, they are as published by their respective publishers. Global Television has no contribution to them. Plus, the views of our guests across all of our programs, including here on Global Morning, are the opinions of our guests. On behalf of my team who have done an amazing work putting this together, I'm Uye Agumofwegbe saying, as always, we do not take your time with us for granted. Bye-bye.